I would also say most of my patients are middle-aged or older, and they preferably don't want to get high.
Even if it's recreational, I feel personally that it's all medical, even if you don't realize it.
So he's actually been seizure-free since I first started him on cannabis.
It's Reefer Madness, the podcast, with Trevor and Kirk.
Kirk, we're back. We're back, part 2.
Hey, Trevor. How you doing?
Off camera, you were asking about my dog. Because, everyone wants a Rosie update.
Well, I was just saying that in part 1, welcome to part 2 of BioSource Botanicals discussion, where we talked to 3 experts from part 1. So if you haven't heard part 1 yet, go back to part 1. And if you had heard part 1, you'll recognize that Trevor forgot to give us the dog story update. So let's give us the dog story update.
So our little dog Rosie went into heat. That was exciting, leaving little red spots all over the place, yes. And then us trying to put a diaper on her and that kind of thing.
It's a little dog, that was the excitement. That's a small diaper.
it was a small dog, small diaper, much chasing. And, after we got that sort of kind of worked itself out, Rosie has now gone to be spayed. And that happened Thursday. So then she had to go through the cone, which every dog loves. And then we tried to put little, picture an infant onesie on her so she wouldn't have to wear the cone, and didn't love that. So... yeah, I've been chasing around a dog, trying to either put a cone on her head or an infant onesie on her body. So but the minor surgery went well, and Rosie's recovered, and still wondering why we're trying to put costumes on her when it's not Halloween. So there we go. There's the Rosie update.
And you wonder why the pet industry is a billion-dollar industry.
Well, at least with her being spayed, we won't create any more extra pets out there.
So thank you for that. So part 2.
Part 2. All right. You mentioned, but I'm just going to say their names because, so Daniel Ghana is our medical or pharmaceutical microbiologist. Dr. A. Benavides is our MD. And Brent Russo is a lawyer with a PhD in biochemistry. So those are the voices you're going to be hearing this time again.
On 3 different continents.
On 3 different continents. Yeah. Yes. Daniel in Nigeria, Abe in Costa Rica, and Brent in the continent of Minnesota.
In the continent of Minnesota. Yes. And I want to remind people that if you go to our webpage or our YouTube channel, you can watch the entire conversation on a video with no edits and no interruptions from us. So these are very bright men. I really enjoyed the conversation. I had to go back. I've transcribed the conversation, and there's still parts of the conversation that I need you to explain to me after we come out. But what are the highlights we're going into in this conversation, part 2?
Well, we do spend some time on things like mitochondria still and whole plant extracts, but I think it's all exciting. But we spend more time with the BioSource Pharmaceuticals' actual products. Some topical, some you ingest. They'll go through that. But yeah, listen for that. And also, I was impressed, I hope you will be too, about basically the amount of care they're taking. They're making sure everything is analyzed. They're trying to get some scientific research published. They have a really good website that's telling you what they do and why they do. So, I think they're putting a lot of care into trying to help people understand cannabis, use cannabis properly, and making some good products to help people.
Yeah. Let's get into the conversation. Gentlemen, I'm very quickly looking at your webpage. So right now, BioSource Botanicals has 3 products: Active Spectrum Cold Sore Rescue, Active Spectrum Rest and Relax Tincture, and Active Spectrum Relief Balm. So that's is that topical? 2 products that are topical, and 1 product is it sublingual?
Yes.
So I guess what how does cannabis absorb through the skin? Like, is it absorbed differently than if you put it under the tongue?
Well, talking about absorption, they tend to have different rates of absorption. I'm yet to do a research or read a research about that. But yes, the most important thing is they interact with these receptors at these particular places. So putting it under the tongue, it depends on the end product. What are you trying to treat? For example, looking at our herpes product, we discovered that full or full spectrum or whole plant botanicals tend to have better effect on sorry.
I can fill in some too. I can chime in. So when I work with my patients and I tell them about topicals, I tell them they're really good at being locally absorbed, but pretty much very superficial local absorption. So what you're trying to target there are more superficial type nerves, pains, wounds, blisters, infections, kind of thing that you can apply to, but not really and if you put THC on, it's not going to get you high because it's not going to get absorbed well enough into the bloodstream to make it and then cause psychoactive effects. And the thing that I tell people about tinctures, and tinctures are definitely the number one form of cannabis product that I recommend for bioavailability and also avoiding airway effects. So, because so I'll just give you the spiel I give my patients. So when we eat cannabis or cannabis products, we're really only getting 6 to 19% at best of the cannabinoids absorbed through the gut, because we're subjecting it to a very harsh digestive process where the stomach acids are breaking up all of this nice, delicate acids, terpenes, things like that, and so you're left with very little to be absorbed through the rest of the body. So I never recommend edibles, or basically edibles are candy. I don't like recommending candy either. And so with tinctures, you're also avoiding the airway effects. So the absorption on like inhaled products is like 30 to 40% bioavailability. With tincture, you're getting somewhere between the edible form and the inhaled form. So tinctures are the second fastest absorbed and second best absorbed as well. You'll get somewhere between 20 and 30 or 40% of the cannabinoids. And the way that you apply it also makes a difference. So I tell patients you're not just supposed to like put it in your drink or just swallow right away. It's sublingual. So the idea is that you're going to shake the bottle, you're going to measure the amount I'm going to tell you week by week, and then you're going to want to drop it under your tongue and you're going to want to hold it there for at least 1 or 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be longer, but the idea is that you're giving some time for the cannabinoids to be absorbed through those very thin membranes in the mouth. And then I instruct the patient to, when after like 2 minutes, you're going to want to swish and swallow, because the more contact you make with the inside of the mouth, the more that's also going to stay there, be absorbed, etc. And then so very little you're going to end up swallowing and getting that tiny bit left. But most of it we want to get absorbed through the mouth. You will have, you'll have 20 to 30% of the cannabinoids absorbed and distributing within the first 15 minutes. Versus if you were to eat the cannabis edible, you will have to wait, at least 60 to 90 minutes, at best 30 if you had a nanoparticle formulation. But the tincture is going to be the best absorbed. I also tell people to take it with food. It's easiest to take with breakfast, like right after breakfast and right after dinner is what I tell patients, because we want your body's already being primed for absorption, including absorption of fats. And so essentially what we want the cannabinoids to hitch a ride on the fat and then into the body. And so the pharmacokinetic studies show that when you eat or when you ingest cannabis on a full stomach versus an empty stomach, you get 3 to 5 times the bioavailability out of it. And so so this is part of the education process where I tell people about why bioavailability is important, and then why we are choosing these certain routes, and why that edible at that dose is not going to work for you, and why we need to switch to tincture.
Brent, you had something to add?
Yeah, sorry, just commenting on the products. The active spectrum cold sore rescue, that's the herpes rescue. It works on contact. It neutralizes the virus, accelerates healing. The other active spectrum relief balm, that is more for pain relief, local pain relief. With these products just coming on the market, we do have obvious anecdotal evidence with people using them with great success. Abe's had some experience using them with some patients with great success. We're just trying to also, go through the rigorous process of providing some scientific evidence to back up everything that we're saying, and hopefully kind of provide some direction for the industry in really maintaining quality of the products. Because right now it is so unregulated. Here in Minnesota, it's just absolute chaos currently. And hopefully they'll get that straightened out. But we're going through the rigorous scientific process of demonstrating the quality and effectiveness of these products. And hopefully the industry will see that and follow suit. That's hopefully the direction that it's going to move. People, not to talk about an industry that might not be totally relevant, but cigarettes are tested per batch, right? Pharmaceuticals, medical devices obviously are. Even cigarettes are tested before they go out into the marketplace. Just having some kind of availability for the cannabis industry to be able to test the quality of these on a regular basis would be, I think, an ideal direction for the industry to move in regards to self-regulation.
Fantastic.
But sorry, and that's one thing that I really like about working with BioSource Botanicals is that is their entire mindset. They want to deliver the highest quality, highest effectiveness products into the market.
Wonderful. I've sort of ticked off my boxes of questions. Coming sort of moving to the end here, is there any questions we did not ask you that you expected from us? Is there any knowledge you want to share that we didn't touch on?
I guess one thing is that we talk about the mitochondrial thing, and this is a new idea of mitochondrial dysfunction and how that is essential to, is a forming theory about how that's essential to chronic and neurodegenerative diseases. So I guess our idea is that by having as many natural cannabinoid and terpenoid and flavonoid components as possible, along with the other good stuff that's in there, we can target mitochondria better and hopefully take on more of a preventative role than treat the sick people role. So hopefully it can be part of people's overall wellness. And with projections of like dementia being like a risk of like 2 in 5 now after age 55, the demand and need for addressing that concern is already quite strong. It's going to only get stronger. And so I'm really excited to see how the science goes with these.
Daniel?
I guess the one thing that, I was curious about was your guys' perception or perspective on market regulation, self-regulation, government regulation, anything like that, just to ensure quality and consistency. I want the consumer to be able to purchase whatever the consumer wants to purchase, whether it's scientific or recreational. It doesn't really matter to me, but just having some thought about quality in the marketplace. I was curious about your guys' perception on that.
Well, we're healthcare professionals. We're exploring a medicine that is so foreign to our own intuition of knowledge. Trevor and I were taught that medicines, he often says one substance, one ailment, and cannabis is this huge thing. So quality, of course. As a nurse, I look at the social science, so I'm really curious in how people use cannabis medicinally, recreationally, and also the stigma of it. So yeah, to answer your question in a roundabout way, of course we're interested in quality. It's good that we have a legal marketplace in Canada so people can buy legal weed knowing what's in it, opposed to the silver gray market that's been around forever, people buying weed from people that, you've known forever, and that they're doing a good product, but from a consumer's basis, we don't know what's in that product. So I guess as a nurse, I'm about the quality, and I'm interested in BioSource Botanicals because you guys are taking it a little differently. You're really focusing on the acid form and mitochondrial health. That's what sparked my interest. But of course, understanding weed deep enough to know that your consumption isn't going to harm you. So enjoy your consumption, but try to do it respectfully and try to do it responsibly. I don't know if I answered your question, Brent, but that's sort of our premise, is that we're looking at cannabis as health professionals. So we do have masters. As Dr. Abe has discovered, sometimes the masters come up to you and go, "What are you doing?" So we have to be able to demonstrate that I'm applying nursing practice to my research of cannabis. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, no, you did. And that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, there's kind of two perceptions of the cannabis industry. One is of treating it just like the pharmaceutical industry, where you're chopping up the plant into these individual chemicals, then going on to synthesize them at an industrial scale, or farming and isolating at an industrial scale, but then processing them and isolating them and then mixing them up individually. That's the classic pharmaceutical model of drug development and discovery. And in that sense, then you have labs doing residual solvents, impurities, degradation. You're doing long-term storage studies to determine degradation of that to determine quality of that. That's the classic pharmaceutical model of it. And eventually, in my mind, the United States is going to move towards kind of like in Minnesota, you might have a lab that does testing. You send your product there, it gets tested, you get some certification, and you're allowed to then continue into the market. But I would prefer, like, the other idea of it instead of the old pharmaceutical model is the botanical model, the natural model, where you extract from the plant, you formulate your products, you're doing it in a controlled environment, you're meeting certain quality standards in that sense. So you're mirroring the pharmaceutical industry in that sense. But then you send your products for testing and then you release. I mean, these are food products, these are natural compounds. That's what I would like to see. But myself, I wouldn't buy anything from a marketer of a CBD or cannabis product that didn't have a C of A or wasn't just openly disclosing their processes and methodologies. And that's why I really like what Bob has set up at BioSource Botanicals, because it's just fully open, disclosing all of that and really trying to be rigorous with the quality and research. But that's what I would like to see people do in the industry. But, the market will drive itself there eventually, I think.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with that. And we have interviewed Big Pharma, and it is fascinating to get deep down into how Big Pharma views cannabis. Because think about it. I mean, think about the poor doctor sitting there, and if you know a little bit about cannabis, or you know a lot about, you got a medicine, a raw form of a flower. Depending on where you pick the flower on the plant, depending on the soil the plant was built in, depending on the cultivar of the plant, you'll get these cannabinoids. Now, depending on when you harvest the plant, did you harvest the plant young? Did you harvest the plant old? So I can see how Western medicine goes, what are we doing with this plant medicine, right?
It makes sense. Anybody who's ever drank a glass of wine knows that wine cultivated at different elevations and areas and soils have different things in them and taste different. It's, that's just...
water. Just think about water. Tasting water in Victoria versus tasting water in Dauphin. The water we drink tastes differently. And I can remember being a young man growing up on the west coast of British Columbia with some of the best water in the world, apparently, right? And drinking it and learning that water tastes differently. Going, well, how does water taste differently? And of course, you just have to travel the world to figure out that water tastes differently. So, no, it's a fascinating plant. And I too like the fact that you go on to the BioSource Botanical webpage and all your research is there. You're transparent in what you're providing, and that's why we're going to move people that way. Our listeners, So yeah, I appreciate your question about our view of it, but also we're also out there asking recreational cannabis users what do they get from cannabis. So it's a fascinating plant. It truly is.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, working with BioSource Botanicals is honestly, like I said, I spent some time, about a decade in the pharmaceutical industry, and I was a graduate professor, a graduate researcher at UW Stout, as graduate faculty member. And that was always my mentality, that you can take these small molecules and chop up the plant and isolate a molecule, deliver it into the system and get an effect. But when the pharmaceutical industry, you watch TV at night and you see all the disclaimers. You stick small molecules into a complex. The human body has trillions and trillions and trillions of chemical reactions taking place right now. That's an incredibly complex system. And you dump one single molecule into that system that is not native to it, and you will imbalance that system, and bad things happen. And they just want you to just be right above the threshold of acceptance of the bad stuff. And that's what they think of you out there in the pharmaceutical industry. It's tragic.
Well, I always say doctors practice medicine, and if I have a slightly elevated blood pressure, I'll be put on to a pharmaceutical to control the blood pressure. But then clients don't realize that pill comes with its own side effects, So you may be controlling your blood pressure, but you might be affecting your ability to climb a mountain, So it's the pharmaceutical injury. I mean, it saved my life with antibiotics. Thank you very much. But there are medicines out there that I don't know. I mean, I think I've come to understand that cannabis should be moved into a class 1 or 2 when it comes to pain management. I've seen and felt cannabis helping with pain. But the pharmaceutical company's not going to move forward until companies like yourselves come out with the research and evidence that it's working.
Yeah, that's what's so difficult is, getting the funding for the research and getting the research done. It's incredibly difficult because it's almost like the snake oil salesman in the old West movies on the back of the wagon. That's kind of the industry right now. People are just chopping stuff up. Not that there's not good operators out there. I don't want to disparage an entire industry. There's obviously good operators. But you see a lot of the madness out there where people are just cobbling stuff together in the back of their wagon and trying to get you to ingest it, and it's dangerous. So that's what I like about BioSource, to exactly what you said there. That's not their mentality. They're spending a lot of time and effort. They built a high quality team to get this research done and help drive these health products forward.
Yeah, I've been on board of whole plant extracts well before I met Bob and the rest of the team. As I was doing all of my research writing and my medical reviewing at Very Hill Cannabis and Oracle, I had found that the whole plant extract is the way to go. Isolates have such little activity, and so I started using that with my patients and just got much better results than when they tried that horrible gas station CBD or this isolate or this other stuff. And sometimes people it's also lack of education. People take it once, think it's supposed to give them immediate effects. And I tell them, no, you really got to do it twice daily for a couple reasons. Got to keep up with it, support your endocannabinoid system, change these receptors that are really resistant, really stubborn to change. It just have the CBD and the other cannabinoids build up in your system so that, over time you'll just feel better. And so it's a long-term thing. Some people ask me, am I going to be on this forever? And then I'm like, well, it depends on the condition you have. If you have a chronic condition, then it's probably going to be maintenance. If it was that you broke your arm and you just need a little more THC for a while, that's a totally different story. But it depends. You really got to understand where people are coming from and their preferences, and that's part of the beauty of my work.
Daniel?
Well, I really don't have any questions for you. I just want the people to know that we are producing more and more information and educational content every week, and we want them to go to our website and then see what we are onto every week, see what new information we have for them. One good thing about whole plant botanicals is the fact that we believe the hemp plant has an energy. The hemp plant is coming with an energy, and we don't really want to break up that energy. We want to transfer that energy to the receptors, and then these receptors will transfer these energies to our cells and then make sure everything works perfectly in our bodies. That's why we are promoting the acidic cannabinoids. They are better, they are more natural, and then it's almost impossible to have these manufactured in the laboratory. It's almost impossible to have the entirety, the unique combination of these plants, to have them manufactured in the laboratory. We don't want to play God with this plant. We want to use it the way nature intended. We want to make sure we harvest every molecule the way it is in the plant, and then transfer it to our bottles, and then from our bottles down to your mouth or to the skin, and then from there to the receptors, so we can have the maximum benefits of these plants. I look forward to see more people asking us questions about our work, asking us questions about what we do, and then visiting our website to see what we're onto. And we are very transparent, and we will love to see people interested in trying out our products in terms of clinical trials, in terms of a lot of things. We are open to seeing people trying it out to see that these claims that we have are not just coming because we want to sell a product, but because we want to see people become healthy. We want to see people have their mitochondria activated. We want to see people have their health back and others. Thank you.
Again, thank you very much. I appreciate meeting you all, and I hope to meet you in the future.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kirk and Trevor, for having us.
Kirk,
Hey,
acid forms of cannabis getting absorbed and or changed into other stuff.
yeah, that still is a mystery to me. My little nursing brain and pathophysiology, I get the mitochondria. I understand more about the mitochondria than I ever have since learning from BioSource and other guests we've had on the podcast. And calcium channels. Oh my God, man, calcium. And then there are different types of calcium channels. And honest to God, it's deep, rich stuff, and it's fascinating. But I'm still having difficulty understanding the raw cannabis. And maybe I just answered my own question. Does it have to do with the CB1 receptor cells versus how the mitochondria accepts raw cannabis over decarboxylated cannabis?
Well, and Daniel does talk about it, and they had a whole paper about it, that electric high paper that we talked about the last time we talked to someone from BioSource, which was Bob Hill. Episode number, I don't know off the top of my head. Kirk might find that while I'm talking. But, yeah, so the carboxylic group is a tail on the end of this really fatty cannabinoid. So it makes it more water soluble, so easier to move around. Everything in the body is water, so moving around through water makes that easier. But as Daniel talks about, also makes it fit into the CB1 receptor differently. So he talks about, so in pharmacy school, we talk about, there being a receptor on some cell that you want, let's go back to insulin. Like an insulin receptor, insulin fits into the insulin receptor, and we let sugar out of bloodstream into the cells. So lock and key, literally the insulin key goes in the receptor lock, opens the door, lets sugar in. So Daniel's saying, and probably not surprisingly, it's a little more nuanced than that. Not only do you want something to fit into the receptor, but how it fits in the receptor, and he called them pockets, how it fits into the pockets affects how they work. And Daniel was saying the acid group being still hooked onto the cannabinoid changes how it fits in, changes how it interacts with those pockets, and so changes the effect you get at the end.
Mm-hmm. Episode 123, Bob Hill and the Electric High. But also going back to the raw cannabis, and Dr. Abe talked about how by prescribing raw cannabis, acid forms of cannabis with the cannabinoids and the terpenes all in there, the full spectrum raw plant, is that the efficacy of the plant is better.
Yeah, he was saying...
Of the medicine.
Yeah,
medicine.
He was saying that, people come to him with, or they're on hundreds of milligrams of CBD, let's say, and it's not working. And, not everybody, not all the time, but then some of them, he'll switch them to a full plant extract. So like you said, it's got some terpenes, got some flavonoids, and some acidic cannabinoids in them. And now he is down to, 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams. And the patient go, why are you decreasing my dose that much? He said, well, just trust me, try it. Let's, like everything else in medicine, let's start low, go slow. And he finds when the CBD is part of the entourage effect of everything else, he gets more effect with a way lower dose.
Mm-hmm. So fascinating stuff. Kind of changes the whole way of looking at cannabinoid medicine, in the sense of how the industry has tinctures out there that made different ways. It's all rather interesting. It's all fascinating. Some of their products, I guess, we should look at some of their products here. In the sense of when you go to their webpage, BioSourceBotanicals.com, it's a very transparent page. You can meet the team. They have their lab results up there. They call it Shopping Wellness, and currently they have 3 products up. They have, we talk about this, the Active Spectrum Extract Cold Sore Rescue, the Active Spectrum Relief Balm, and the Active Spectrum Rest and Relax Tincture. And if I heard the story correctly, what I like about what they're doing is that all of these products have the C of A's attached, and now they're doing the research on what they believe these products can do. They're actually tracking as people buy this stuff.
Yeah, and just to highlight one of them, the Cold Sore Rescue, did I name that right? Who doesn't either have cold sores or know someone with cold sores? They are a common affliction across the world. So if they've got a product that literally makes you have a cold sore less often or go away faster, that's huge. That's something, it's not people, it's not, saving life and limb. Yeah, maybe not. But, having a ghoulie on your lip is not a whole lot of fun. So if we can make that go away faster or not show up at all, that really helps people's quality of life.
Yeah. On the webpage, they also, and in the conversation, we also talked a lot about CBG, CBGA, and again, it's interesting. We've had other people, and one of our favorite quotes that we've heard is that CBG is the bubble wrap for my brain. And here are some experts that are actually studying, going, yeah, CBGA is amazing stuff. If you go to their webpage, you can go to our webpage. It'll be linked there. They have blogs. They keep you as a customer of theirs, or even just as a cannabis enthusiast. They keep you up to date with the research they're doing with their blogs. So it's an ethical company working in a plant medicine world, and trying to do it following all the best what's the word? Best guidelines, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Cool.
I agree.
Yeah, it was a cool exercise. I'm so glad we got to meet these people, and I hope we go forward with them and have keep up to date with the research they're doing.
Absolutely.
So, thank you very much. Thanks for the guys for having the patience to talk to us. And we're Reefer Madness, the podcast. I'm Kirk Nyquist. I'm the registered nurse.
I'm Trevor Schufeld. I'm the pharmacist. It was great to talk to the guys from BioSource. And like you mentioned we've mentioned before, on literal 3 different continents, isn't Zoom amazing? It really is. Like, how else would you do this pre-Zoom?
Yeah, no.
We'd have to have a private plane. Maybe we should still get a private plane. But anyway, that was a great chat. I learned a lot. I hope they keep us up to date on what they're doing down the road.
Go to our webpage. Our webpage is growing. We're putting a whole bunch of new educational stuff up in there. We call it Cannabites. They're small little tidbits of information about cannabis that you can get without spending a whole lot of time. You can grab the information and go away, and come back and grab the information and go away, and it's real quick. So yeah, check that webpage out there and tell a friend.
Another good one, everybody. Make sure you come back.
And there we go. Another good one. Thanks, guys. It's Renee here, back in the studio. Just going to wrap things up with a song request from one of our guests. Abe wrote us after the interview, and he writes, here's my song choice from a Costa Rican reggae artist, Yaharicio, and the song is Un León No Se Rinde. And he adds that the title means a lion doesn't give up, and talks about inner strength and overcoming adversity, a central theme in my life and for many of our patients. So thanks again, everyone, for joining Trevor and Kirk. Thanks, everyone out there, for listening. Make sure to go to the website, reefermed.ca, and we'll see you next time.
Check out the complete library of Reefer Medness episodes at reefermed.ca. And make sure to follow us on all the socials for bonus info on what Trevor and Kirk are up to.
Yeah. Gotta make them know the desire is yeah. Saya. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. El que lo siente lo sabe, cruzando la montaña o el valle. Ya lo, esa es la clave. Él nos da la llave que cualquier puerta abre. Babylon trata de ponerme miserable, pero yo soy un soldado honorable. Soy un recluta de Yahame, así que nunca traten de pararme, porque un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Rastaman por siempre will burn up the fire. Voy como guerrero por media batalla, siempre valiente y lleno de agallas. Rasta no se rinde, Rasta no tira la toalla. Nunca podrán decir que yo soy un canalla. Yo reparto la buena vibra por donde vaya. No voy a parar hasta ganarme la medalla. Ya no se mana real warrior. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme.
Sólido como una roca, duro como el hierro.
Tengo la bendición de Ali Selassie el primero, por eso Babylon nunca engaña mi cerebro. Yo soy humilde y también soy sincero. No pueden tirar mi vida por el basurero. Yo soy tal como un guerrero, a eso me refiero cuando digo un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. El que lo siente lo sabe, cruzando la montaña o el valle. Ya lo, esa es la clave. Él nos da la llave que cualquier puerta abre. Babylon trata de ponerme miserable, pero yo soy un soldado honorable. Soy un recluta de Yahame, así que nunca traten de pararme, porque un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Un león no se rinde, así como el fuego de ya no se extingue. Yeah. Babylon no causará que yo me hinque. Rastafari me mantiene firme. Yeah. Side the fire lion, Zion production. Rasta no se rinde.
So our little dog Rosie went into heat. That was exciting. We had a dog before the kids were a female dog.
Could you rephrase that?
My female dog started menstruating.
No.